Well, hello everyone. Welcome to BCC, the other side. I had to remember where I was for a moment. The parallel dimension to Bigfoot Collectors Club. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. Not with us this week, our alternate host, Bryce Johnson. He is off in the woods, but we have ultra-terrestrial producer
Bray.
and a very special guest with us this week. Guest and I would say guest host, filling in for Bryce because he hosts his own show, High Strangeness. Everyone, please give a warm Club Scout salute to Steve Berg, crossing over to the other side for the first time. Steve, it's so great that you're here. I want to let everybody know before we get started here that we decided to do something a little bit different. We've been playing around with video episodes over here on the other side. We're still kind of figuring out how that will work. But for this episode, you're going to get an audio episode if you are on the Club Scout tier, but you're going to get the video of this episode over on the Cosmeteer membership. So if you want to watch this and you're a Cosmeteer, go over there and you can watch this instead of just listen to it. But we know that some of you guys have said we want to still be able to listen, maybe have an option to watch. So we're playing around here. Let us know what you think. But welcome, Steve, to an Out There episode.
Oh man, it's great to be in here out there. Let me tell you, I like it. The vibes are good. It's warm.
Good.
You know, the pastries are on point. I can't say enough good things about being out here with you guys.
Well, we're happy to be out there in here with you. So here's how this works, Steve. We're going to take a suggestion from the audience and it's going to kick off just an impromptu conversation. It can be about high strangeness. It often goes into that territory. Like there was an episode we did last month about Appalachia or Appalachia, and then we ended up like looking up monsters in the Appalachian Mountains.
Yes, please.
You know, we can do whatever we want here. This is sort of a free form, and I know that you have an improv background, so you know how these one-word suggestions work.
I like it. We're just a handful of Jerry Garcias, man. Just trying
That's
to
right.
trying to find the jam.
Also,
right,
should be noted, first time that Riley and Steve have recorded together on BCC. Riley was not here for Steve's first episode, so
that's true.
Yeah, I was admiring his killer lamp, man. The guy's got style. So the first impression is just, look at that thing.
That's right.
The real deal.
I just have a cat tree and toys in my background. I'm trying to reorganize my little geek library here.
You're doing great too. I didn't say anything because your headphones are off, but yeah, you're killing it, playing at a high level.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Finally organized. Yes,
I know we're getting there. Stuff you can see. Some stuff is still in boxes. Okay, so let's pick a number. I mean, I guess we should let the guest pick. Actually, pick a number between 1 and 73, and if we've done it already, we'll say we've done it, and we'll have you pick another number. So 1 and 73. What's coming to your mind's eye?
Well, obviously, I'm going to go with 27.
Obviously.
Great,
27. The word is adventure. Adventure.
Oh, goodness sakes.
What a prompt.
Could it get better?
Yeah. What does this mean to you, Steve? Let's go.
The first thing that comes to my mind is a philosophy on life, because I mean, right away I'm going to relate to High Strangeness, because I think the greatest part of being into UFOs, cryptids, ghosts, counterculture, marginal art, all that stuff, there's this air of mystery about it. And mystery, in order to reveal other layers of mystery, you must go on an adventure. Now, whether that's a physical adventure or an adventure of the mind where you're reading new books or gaining new knowledge from other experts, it really isn't, a very great. That's what I always think about High Strangeness. It's like, I'm never going to come up with the answers. But at the end of the day, it's a fun lens to use to look at life, a mysterious life. And when I say mystery, I'm not necessarily saying like dark and sinister things, but the world's full of mysteries. And I just think chasing after them is like a noble goal. And it's very fun. And I think fun is a noble goal as well. So adventure, I mean, we can go in a lot of directions with that, but like what adventures to me, it means to me mostly is getting your ass out of your couch and going and entertaining the things you find fascinating in life or enjoy doing in life. It requires an active initiation to adventure. You can't you can't adventure, I'm sure with the meditation or psychedelic drugs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for most of us, I think adventure means you pack a sack lunch and you get out there in the rural wilds and just see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
Or just, it doesn't have to be the rural wilds too. It can be go exploring a city, or I think a big part of adventure too is interacting with other people. It's like, if you look at, like, I'm going to bring up Lord of the Rings because I think it's one of the greatest sort of adventure stories, but it's all about friendships and interactions and mentors and sort of like the people along the way. And I think that's a big part of adventure. When you said getting up off the couch, that's, I mean, and yes, of course, like, the whole George Harrison, you can explore the world without leaving your four walls.
Totally.
But yeah, and I think that in a lot of ways, I mean, it's not a very perilous adventure, but podcasting is sort of like that adventure, because we do meet all these new people every week. We're bringing in new people, we're exploring new ideas. And granted, I'm completely negating what I just said about leaving your house.
No, well, but I mean,
think it's
like,
both. I think there's both.
Yeah.
I think there is the cerebral adventure, which I would say podcasting is. But really, one thing, I always think about this, kind of like that scenario of being the old man in the rocking chair if I'm at a ripe old age and I'm looking back and I'm thinking about the memories that make me happy and like the meaningful moments of my life. When I do that now at my age, most of these wonderful memories are adventures with my wife, my friends, by myself, challenging jobs. A lot of times, if you take an acting job, you don't know anyone on set, you're going to a different state, you're staying at a weird hotel in the middle of nowhere for
I love
17
that
days.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's the best. And it's almost like I get more excited about the adventure and the downtime I have than the actual job. But it's an adventurous life. And I think that's one thing that has attracted me to the arts, is that it's endless adventure. You're making your career adventure because there's no stability there. It's always going to change. Just when you think you're in a comfortable position, the show gets canceled or whatever, So we all know about this. And to me, it used to make me more paranoid and giving more anxiety. And now I just have kind of like leaned into it. It's like, man, I don't know what I feel like. In my head, I had this idea of what I'm going to be doing in 6 months, but I know it will look like nothing like that when the 6 months come.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I've been in that sort of perilous state of mind. I mean, also to not to bring the house down or anything, but obviously, my mother just passed away, and that's kind of like a thing too that happens. Like, a major cast member in my life is now just vanished. You know what I mean? And what is more, not to trivialize the passing of my mom, but like, what's more adventurous when one of your companions is killed off in the story, like, you're thinking, where do I go now? How, like, really, for the first time, I really don't know what the future, none of us know what the future looks like.
Mhm.
But at least one major player that I could depend on being there is no longer there, right? And it's really made me think about life as for lack of a better term, and I don't love this because it's used so much, but life as a journey, and where certain people's journeys end, and it's making me think about the end of my own journey now too. All of these things the death that happens when someone close to you dies. But I am in that state of mind right now where I'm like, I'm in a bit of a liminal space, I
Yeah.
feel like,
Right.
and it's also coinciding at a time when there are some prospective projects on the future, but it's all a bit misty. And now I feel like the year that was the strike is catching up to me, and I'm going, oh boy, now I'm starting to feel that financial crunch, that I got to get a job crunch again,
I hear
that
you.
just comes with what you're saying as being an artist. And I should feel very stressed out about it, but also at the same time, to echo something you said, it's like, this time around, I'm feeling a little bit more calm because I'm like, I've been in this situation before, and you know what? It's not going to kill me. Something will come. this is the crazy thing about life and about an artist, and also happens in adventures, like the suspense and the save. You know what I mean? Like something will come along, something will happen either through my own grit and determination, or an eagle is going to swoop out of the sky and be like, oh, just before my boat goes careening off this cliff, I'm now flying on the back of a wing, the back of an eagle, and we're like going off into new territory. So you have to, I guess, one of this all of way of saying, like, you have to trust the adventure as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There, you have no other choice, I think. Like you were saying, kind of about your mother, like it. I feel like the transition into death is okay. Yeah, transitioning into death is the denouement, is the end of Act 3. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cliffhanger. It really is like the greatest adventure. So like I try to look at it that way. I don't know where I stand about like what happens after we die and all that stuff. I don't really, my thoughts on it are constantly changing. But what I do know is I look at it as, and this may be just my own way to comfort myself, as the greatest adventure. It's like like the Buddhists and not there's many Eastern religions where they think life is about preparing yourself for a good death. And I've always loved that. And I have always taken like great comfort in that. It's almost like your life is this living art piece, and you get to fill this canvas in with whatever you choose. And some painting, pieces of this mural will be ugly, and some will be beautiful, some will be really surreal and confusing. But at the end, maybe like the last stroke of the paintbrush, it all comes together and ties into this beautiful work. Hopefully, that's ideally. That's how I like to think of it, because this preparing myself for a good death just means it's like another way to remind yourself, like, be great to people. Try to put positivity out in the world. Like help is leave the world a better place than you found it. Like it's all those kind of positive affirmations that we're all tired of hearing, but there's something to it, like, and
Absolutely.
to me, like it isn't like having adventure is just a great vehicle to do interesting things in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I think that whole idea too about acknowledging and almost embracing your mortality is it's so powerful in your interactions with people in your day-to-day life, and how you just how you work in the world, and just like it can wake you up from these mundane moments of like driving to work or like whatever. And if you do remind yourself like that you are painting in this canvas, and you're not always going to be in control of the things that you have to do, the things that happen to you, all of these things, but what you are in control of is your inner world, your inner mind, and your perspective on having to commute to work or whatever, and you choose how that's going to be interpreted within your own mind. And I think such a big part of that is just acknowledging your own mortality, and getting back to like, oh, this is a precious moment, like, even though I'm just sitting in the car for this example, and I also think that when you can get to that place, and it's not like you're there all the time, it's like you get there and you're like, okay, I'm this like enlightened being or whatever, but it just, you're better to other people because everything becomes just that bit more precious and that bit kind of more kind, where you are like, oh, we're all just sort of like, painting in this canvas while we can, and I really I think that's such a valuable idea about that your life is basically preparing to like live a good life to have a good death. Like, I think about that a lot too. And it did come from studying Buddhism, like when I was younger. And I really would like to picture that moment when I like slip off this coil, that I'm very good with it, like I want that very much,
That's exactly right. And like I kind of, I remember I did not really grow up with a religion in my household, but like I was around enough, religious ideas and stuff. And the whole like notion of like answering to St. Peter when you like go to a Christian heaven or whatever.
Yeah.
As opposed to that, I like to I like to think this version of Steve Berg at 47 needs to answer to his older self on his way out and say like, did you do your best? Huh? How do you grade yourself? It was a B minus. Maybe in your next life you'll get a better grade. But I do try to hold myself up to a certain standard to where as an, like, and I think about my old age a lot, especially as I get older.
Mhm.
And I do just want to be not proud of the financial or the amount of money I've amassed or the house I'm living in, but like, was it a fun life?
Mhm.
And fun and adventure are synonymous to me, So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
That
think
reminds me of this David Bowie quote. I think it's in that doc that recently came out, but he was talking about that he was
so
just
good.
when he was young, he just decided, I want to have the grandest adventure anyone's ever had. And he just made that decision and then he did it. I mean, granted, he was David Bowie. Like
Yeah.
we don't all get to be David Bowie.
he was the
but-
wizard. He was the Gandalf.
but
You
the
know what?
point-
But
yeah.
there's a lot of talented people though in this world, and especially like when you live in LA. I remember when I moved to LA, I'm like, oh man, I'm the shit. I'm the next Jack Black, no question about it. And then I move out there and realize the funniest people who are my type of actor live in LA. Like everyone who is the most talented person in their town moved there to do the exact same thing, to audition for the exact same parts
Mhm.
as I did.
Mhm.
So there's talent everywhere, but it's the people who decide to say, like, I am gonna roll the dice and take this maybe easy path that was laid before me and say, fuck it, I'm going for this grand adventure, like Bowie said. So
Mhm.
while the talent is like, I think sometimes we place too much emphasis on talent when it comes to an artist. There's a lot of talent out there, but
Sure.
it's the perspective of the artist and it's the adventurousness. That's not a word, but you know what I'm trying to get at. Adventure,
Yeah,
Adventurous.
adventurous type
adventurousness.
attitude, type
Yeah.
mode. But I feel like, yeah, like you said, Bowie just decided, he made the decision like, this is what I'm gonna, whether I fail or not, it's gonna be a great adventure.
Right.
Like success isn't really the determination if you had the good adventure, really.
The
Totally. Yeah.
The other thing that I'm thinking as you guys are talking about all of this too is like, don't forget there's like a lot of downtime in adventures. Like there's like when we see, like Lord of the Rings, like I think I can't quote it. I can't quote the book from memory, from beginning to end,
What?
but no, I can't remember exactly, but someone did the math on like how much time the journey to Mordor actually took, and like how much time it took for like Gandalf to like tell Frodo to like hold on to the ring. I'm gonna go do some studying. Like he was gone for like a decade and then came back, and then they were gone for years on this journey. And so you're like, oh, right. Remember in the stories that like adventures are just showing, they're just showing the highlights of the adventure. There's way more downtime and boring time. Think about it all in the movie, like all those cuts of them walking across, fields and mountains. Those are days and days where like nothing happened. So I think we also have to remember in those moments where you're like, I'm bored or I'm frustrated or like things aren't moving quickly enough, that every adventure takes its time. And
Mhm.
there's lots of time spent in Star Wars where they're just in hyperspace, but they're not going to show that part in the movie because it's boring,
But yeah,
So
you're right. I mean, there's probably like a good portion of that adventure was them sitting around smoking sweet leaf, eating Lambos bread.
yeah, second
Which
breakfast, and
awesome.
yeah, exactly.
Like
Sitting by the fire, and nothing's happening. So that is also part of adventure too. And I think we have to like in these moments of like, I want to live that David Bowie life. Like David Bowie had boring days too,
totally.
I mean, he was
Totally.
on tour a lot. And like for me, like one of the biggest reasons I became a musician was because I wanted to tour. I just had this
Mhm.
idea in my head when I was young. But it's what you're saying is like, and it's a cliche, but it's like so much of tour is just looking out of a window of a van. But I really try not to just zone out on my phone on the drives, because you're driving through all these places and all these things that you've never seen, and all these like interesting little moments are just flying past you. So it's like I really try when I'm out on the road to like really get into that and
Mhm.
just
I
be
love that. I love that. I love that, Riley, because in that analogy is that the slow moments in our lives are really just the travel time, right? So that's the time to look out the window and just take it all in and be in the moment. You'll get to the next destination or the next layover soon. But
yeah.
next time you're bored and you go, God, nothing's happening. It's like, oh, this is the part of the journey where I'm just walking across the field right now and not a lot's going on. So
Mhm.
just take a look at the view if you can.
Mhm.
Totally, and that downtime accentuates the big moments. It makes those moments big. I mean, because if every hour of every day was like,
Peril.
constant astonishment or peril, or like saving someone from a cliff. I mean, like it would be exhausting.
Yeah.
You have to replenish that adventure energy. I mean, but like you make a great point, Michael. It's like if you think about some of the old, and actually, well, a lot of these people who were traveling across the sea to colonize places had bad intentions. But if you think about that, is adventure necessarily isn't always a positive thing. Adventure can be negative too. But
Mhm.
if you think about it, when they were like traversing the sea for like 7 years, and like half of you were gonna die of disease on the way to
Yep.
like, or crossing the Oregon Trail, like
Yep. I was just
back
thinking
then,
that.
if they want to like cross like 3 states, well, they're gonna lose like a third of their party to like some awful, horrible virus or something. But that was just the ticket you bought. It's part of the adventure.
I
Mhm.
love it. So let's talk about some before we get to the end of this conversation, Steve. What are some of the like actual adventures you go on? What gets you off the couch when it's
N-
let's talk about high strangeness. Like, how are
Yeah.
you applying this to this field?
Uh Totally, man. Well, for me, I lived in Los Angeles for 20 years, and then during the pandemic, I moved back to Omaha, where I'm originally from, to be closer to my parents. And I took it as an opportunity to really try to delve deep into the mysteries of Eastern Nebraska. And what I found is there's a lot of places to check out. And I can read about them. I can like stare at them late at night on Google Earth. But at the end of the day, I don't get the feel or the magic of place until I am standing on that piece of grass or gravel or dirt pile that a cryptid or where a UFO landed. So, like, really high strangeness for me, and I feel so lucky. It is this cheap way to have like these legend trips, these little day
Mm.
trips where, as you know, Michael, I take my sack lunches very seriously. So
Yeah.
I'll plan out like what I'm going to have. There's so many snacks. I'm taking in like 2,000 calories.
You are
Like I'm going away for a
yeah.
month, but I'm going away for.
You are like the Hobbit in this adventure,
Oh,
just
that's
very
a breakfast.
fixated on what you're bringing in your lunch sack.
That's exactly right. I mean, I'll have like 7 Cliff Bars. I'm like, buddy, like that's like you don't need that, but I take it anyway. I'll have like 5 water. No, but like I go out there and most of the time I go by myself, and I
Mhm.
love it that way. I love it. I'll listen to like the Twin Peaks soundtrack all there while I'm driving out there in the rural country roads. And
Yeah.
rarely, I don't know how much you've been in the Midwest, but Michael,
So
it's like
true.
when you leave like a Kansas City or Omaha, which is like a metropolitan kind of everywhere city, the Midwest is so deeply scary. It
Yeah.
really is. It's spooky. Cornfields scare me. These little roads that your cell phone doesn't work. There's no towns around it.
Mhm.
And you just feel isolated. And it's kind of an eerie feeling, but also so wonderful. But I would
Mhm.
not be doing this. Like my friends who live in Omaha, they never go to rural Nebraska ever. They're like, "Why are you're
Right.
out there looking for
Why?
Bigfoot?" I'm like, "No, I'm out there experiencing a place where someone reported a Bigfoot sighting. I don't think I'm going to see Bigfoot. Now it would be great. There is a 1% part of me that's like, well, maybe,
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
but that's not really what my motivation is. It's really just a friend of mine, Josh Cutchin, who I'm sure a lot of your listeners know about,
Yep. It's been on the show.
really, like him and I and a small group of other people went to Point Pleasant a couple summers ago just to like, you know, experience the whole Mothman scenario. And we went to the Flatwoods Monster site, and a couple times we couldn't get on the exact area, like because it was private property. And I kept them being like, "Oh man, that sucks." And like, he kind of grabbed my shoulder. He goes, "Steve, are you not feeling the magical place?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I guess I am." And he's like, "That's all that matters, buddy." And he kind of patted me on the shoulder. He's like, "Come on, let's go." And I was like, "God, you're right. I was being such a little whiny baby, Like, and that changed how I see all this stuff. Because basically, I was like, maybe more results oriented, where I'm like, I want to say I stood exactly where this happened,
Right.
even
Mhm.
though, even though we all know, like a lot of these stories likely probably aren't genuine, but that's beside the point. But now I'm just like, get me to the area, let me think about the story, and it's so exciting. It's like a multitude of different emotions. It's fear, it's joy, it's passion, because I have a passion for this stuff. And so I'm just flooded with these emotions. So by the time I'm driving back to Omaha, I feel like I just had like a 3-week European trip. My batteries are charged.
Yeah,
I'm ready to, go self-tape that audition or do whatever. But I found like now I've become addicted to it to where I need to do it at least twice a month.
How do you plan those?
So I basically, I mean, like, even if I had all the time in the world, I wouldn't be able to go to all these places. So there's like a 22-mile stretch in eastern Nebraska in a place called Odo County, which has kind of been the focus of my research the last couple years.
I think we talked about this either over here or over on High Strangeness.
Right. And so there's just many different areas I need to go explore, and I need to go re-explore certain areas. And that's kind of been what I've been doing most, just kind of focusing on certain little areas for a few months. And then I'll go, all right, well, I'm going to go north of Fremont, for a couple months and just explore the Oakland Howler, which was this, Bigfoot that was accosting people in the 70s. And like, just go walk. And a lot of it is I'll go to a diner. Or sometimes I'll call
the tavern.
I'll call I will call these people a lot of times a couple days or a week before I want to go out there and say, hey, did you ever hear about this case? I'm like, sure, it was a big deal in this town. I go, well, do you know anyone who I could talk to about it? They're like, well, I'll tell you what, on Saturdays, 85% of the town is in here for lunch. So if you come here on a Saturday, I'll introduce you to people. And I know they have a lot of stories. So
awesome.
People really, whether they know it or not, we are all hardwired, I believe, to love folklore and mythology and high strangeness. I mean, if you even just look at our culture and our media, it's seeping with mythology and folklore and the paranormal and UFOs. So there's people who feel like, stuff's all, what's the big deal? Why do you care about this stuff so much? I'm like, you do too, but you just don't know it.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. I love it. What do you guys do at the end of an adventure? Like when you come back, you've been on the road. What's the welcome home like for you guys? Like what is your ritual when you get home?
I mean, if I'm coming home from tour, usually it's like sleep for a day and a half. I'd probably be sick for a day or two after being exposed to so many people in so many different places. But I mean, honestly, it's just like full crater. Like, because a lot of times too, it's a lot of like very tight schedules, but it's so much hurry up and wait. Like, where you got to be like, we have to leave right now because we have an 8-hour drive to get to this place to be at sound check, and then we have 4 more hours off, and it's just like that kind of stuff. So usually it's I just go into like a complete hibernation shutdown for about like 2, maybe 3 days.
Wow, I love that.
I can see that because touring, I back in the day did some like small comedy tours, but never like a band does. And like, while that's like, it looks so cool. I mean, like at this age, you'd be like, oh my God, I would never be able to do that. I'd fall apart.
I'm kind of getting to that point where I'm like, but then you play the first show and you're like, this rules. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, man. Like, absolutely. For me, it kind of depends. If it's like I've been away for a while, it will definitely be more the creatoring, just like couch time, passing out, watching bad TV. But if it's like a little day adventure, kind of like I do more typically, like looking at where a saucer landed in 1954, it usually involves a high-end pizza and some sort of local craft beer. Or
do you always pick a food that looks like the thing that you were researching?
Pretty much. I pair food with every aspect of life, not just my wine. Okay. So it's like if it's gray, sunny, or if it's gray and like 59, I'm gonna go for maybe a heartier deep dish pizza. But if it's summertime, I want something light and crackery. I don't want to be bogged down with too many carbs.
Yeah, I love it.
It all depends.
I love it, guys. I think this conversation was an adventure. A short one, but full of beautiful imagery. We got to wrap this up, but Steve, thank you so much for being on the show. Remind people again where they can find you.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you so much. It is a great honor. Riley, I've been a fan of yours for quite some time, man, so it's a real pleasure to meet you, bud.
Oh, right on, man.
Hopefully we can high five in person one day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And have a pizza and a beer and go
Yeah, I love that, man. I'll pair
on.
a whole evening.
Steve, I've been thinking about our last conversation over on High Strangeness. Like, you have been the forefront of my mind about like actually getting out and doing a little exploring and doing some stuff in Kansas together. So,
Buddy, like, I'm down, man. Like,
we
let's
gotta
find
make
a
that
time this
happen
summer
this year.
for sure. No, let's just do it. Like
Yeah.
we in 2 days you'd be so shocked at what we can cover and what we'll see and
Oh,
how
man.
much fun we'll have.
We will plan it. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking May, maybe June, around then.
Dude,
We'll
that works for me.
Figure out.
I mean,
some
we've just
time.
been talking about how you have to leave your door and go have adventures with
Yeah.
friends. So
Yeah.
you better actually do this thing.
Yeah,
we
we
have to
gotta
do, yeah,
do it.
now people have to hold us to this, because if we
Yeah,
don't, then
exactly.
we're bad adventure ambassadors then.
Yep. Just the problem is then I'll just blink and it'll be like July and I'll be like, I forgot to do that thing. So
Shoot. Yeah,
that's-
but we'll do it. I'll be the thorn on your side.
great.
Love it.
I love it. All right, everyone, check out High Strangeness, available now. Do you have a Patreon over there?
I don't. I'm having a website built right now, and I will be having a Patreon
Ooh.
with some extra gravy on top.
Okay,
so
kind of
I don't
your
know what that
own-
means.
Own thing. Great. I love it. Well, we look forward to finding out. Thanks everybody. Check out High Strangeness. We'll see you Wednesday for an all new episode of BCC. We love you. Where there's love, there's kisses. Mwah.
Oh, thank you. Thanks
Say
for
it,
having me on.
Riley.
You Patreons. I get to do Bryce's catchphrase.
Yeah,
He's
that's
not
right.
here.
Thank you, Patreons. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.